Before the show even started, you knew something huge was going to happen.
The people who come to see the show are up for a little adventure.
Transport Group is challenging. In a good way.
Emotionally classic.
Brave, confident.
Traditionally unconventional.
Totally changed my life.
The plays that are being presented are deeply cared about by the artists who are doing it.
Powerful, contemporary, important theater.
I had this idea where what would happen to the play if the two actors playing George and Emily were older, and by older I mean in their 60s, and the stage manager was a 12-year-old girl.
To listen to that dialogue played by mature, older adults, totally sincerely and totally faithfully, I don't think I can ever watch two teenagers play that scene again.
You know, there's Barbara Andress and Tom Ligon, you know, staring at each other as those two young souls full of hope and joy. I'm going to cry just thinking about it. And you know those two actors have lived a life, and to tell that story, to be able to sort of channel that youth and that, I'll never forget that. I could hardly catch my breath, and then that little girl as the stage manager walks in. It was cathartic. That was, I'll never forget that. I've talked about that for years.
What I wouldn't give for him to finally notice me.
So I had this idea to kind of explore an audience who is seeing a Broadway show, and they happen to be seeing it on its closing night.
He came to me saying, I want to write a play about an audience. So first thing I asked him is, like, how big is the audience?
There were 19 storylines, there were 46 people, and there was a different playwright for every storyline. There were 12 stories that we chose to write a song for.
So many writers, so many characters. It's sort of like playing that game where you play checkers on 14 different levels and you're trying to win back and forth.
It was mad. It was absolutely mad, but in the most fantastic way.
I couldn't get enough of it. I couldn't get enough of this experience of all these remarkable actors on stage.
People were so excited because that's the kind of thing it takes. It takes creativity, it takes ingenuity, but it takes courage.
Whenever I'm with him, something inside starts to...
When I heard how we were going to do it, I had worked with Jack a lot, so I had a sense that he had an idea.
What if we all go into the apartment to look at these characters up close?
Design for Boys in the Band, I feel like, was 95% audience seating and audience relationship to the play, and 5% kind of traditional scenery.
Well, I guess with that we were really bringing the audience into the actual space to the greatest extent we possibly could, which meant that they would be fully lit with the actors and there was no separation.
I had an actor friend say to me that we were the hardest working 9 actors in New York because we worked for 2 hours in close-up.
The audience was at the party. In fact, drinks were served and you could get drunk with the characters if you wanted to.
It was very moving to me, probably because I think it bridged a gap between now and when the play was originally presented.
What I remember most is the heartbreaking honesty that each of them brought to their roles, coupled with Mart's incredible writing, is really what set the production apart and made it truly special.
I've got to see Rock City.
What we're going to do is we're going to make that we can tell the story only with things that are found in this room.
I sort of had this weird image of, like, well, what if, like, a dump truck, this is so stupid, but, like, what if a dump truck pulled up to, like, into the Duke, you know, like 10 minutes before the audience was let into the room, and sort of just dumped off, like, everything that was required to do the piece, including what the audience sat on and every prop and every costume and everything that was needed.
When the house opened for See Rock City, the audience entered and saw a huge pile of lawn chairs.
As the actors finally entered the space, as the audience was just sort of standing, not sure what to expect,
And we proceeded to dismantle the tower of chairs, and they set up the audience.
The routine or the religion of theater was broken.
And then we said, go. And they sat down.
The audience was supplying all the things that the set and the lights didn't have.
For me, Sea Rock City was that moment where your life is never the same because of a choice you made. And sometimes that choice seems very, very, very small in the moment, and sometimes that choice is obviously enormous.
I don't know where else in New York, actually, that I've seen something that cool, and I was part of it.
It is the classic play Lysistrata spun into a contemporary college cheerleader basketball musical.
I wanted to write something that was of the day and sounded like something that these kids would have on their iPods.
In spite of the fact that it was sexy and fun and young and had this exuberant energy about it, it was about something really meaningful. And for me, it was about not being complacent.
It just was the best of messages, and one that I and our sold-out audiences completely fell for.
The message of Lysistrata Jones, I believe, is being passionate about something and then bringing it to the world.
The story of Queen of the Mist is based on the true story of Anna Edson Taylor, the first woman to go over the falls in a barrel and live.
This piece went to that place that musical theater doesn't often go, because musical theater doesn't want to deal with death and doesn't want to deal with, you know, leaving earthly cares behind.
That moment at the end of Queen of the Mist, when Annie finally dies and steps up from her chair and tells us what it felt like to go over the falls, for me was one of the most moving and pure moments in theater that I've seen or been lucky enough to work on.
I think it has this power that works on audiences and artists alike that isn't always easily explained, but is incredibly intuitive and incredibly emotional.
The best artistic experience one can have.
Almost Maine is, well, I've learned now to call it a romantic comedy. I think that's what romance is finding something that is special and desperately trying to hold on to it. That's what Almost Maine is about. It's about people desperately trying to hang on to what good they have in their lives.
I think John is an amazing writer. He really gets to kind of the aching heart of people, but in a very true and honest and yet funny way.
Most people who are okay and live decent lives, no one pays much attention to them, you know what I mean? So I wanted to look at those people, look at their lives.
It's just a beautiful play that is so honest, and I think everyone really can relate to.
I have to say, the thing I'm most excited about, honestly, is I love the design and taste values of Transport Group Productions. I think where I'm from is one of the most beautiful places in the world, and I'm really excited to see what this team of designers is going to do to replicate that in a theatrical way.
I have been in love with the play I Remember Mama for a very long time. And so I thought one way to kind of get at the heart of it is, what if we experience this particular play through the hearts and lives of 10 older actresses, and only 10 older actresses. I think that will open up layers of the play and open up layers of theatrical experience for an audience that I'm hoping will be very compelling.
The goal, the promise, the hope is that we 10 women, with Jack's guidance, which is always amazing, take the text and live it, add our own very individual memories to it, and bring it to a point where the audience, which of course is the ultimate goal, lives with us.
What I'm really looking forward to for this play and for an audience is to experience not just older women on stage, but older women en masse, and for them to be surrounded only by each other.
So I'm lucky. I've got a gift coming down the pike here at me that I'm going to wrap my heart in all together.
I will show the world the great